September 26th, 490 BCE. The beach at Marathon stretches wide and empty, morning mist rolling off waves that lap Persian warships like sleeping giants. 25,000 soldiers from the edge of the world stand in perfect lines, their bronze and gold catching early light, spears tilted toward a huddle of 10,000 Greeks who should not be here. But the Greeks are not retreating. This is the story of how a handful of citizen soldiers saved democracy before the world knew what democracy meant. How a single charge across 800 yards of sand became the run that created marathons. And how one impossible morning taught empires that free men fight differently than slaves. To understand what happens next, you need to know that the Persians have never lost a battle like this. Darius the Great commands an empire that stretches from India to the gates of Europe. His immortals have crushed Babylon, Lydia, and Egypt. They do not lose to farmers with spears. The Greeks form their thin line anyway, and when the trumpet sounds, they begin to run. The Persian Empire in 490 BCE is a machine that devours nations. From the Indus River to the Black Sea, Darius rules 50 million souls through a system so efficient, it makes Rome look primitive. His roads stretch 5,000 miles. His messengers can cross the empire in 3 months. His treasury holds enough gold to buy cities. But empires have long memories for insults. 5 years earlier, Athens made the mistake that brings this army to their shores. When Greek cities in Asia Minor rebelled against Persian rule, Athens sent 20 ships to help. Just 20 ships. But they burned the Persian capital of Sardis to ash and smoke. Darius never forgot. Legend says he commanded a servant to whisper in his ear 3 times daily, "Remember the Athenians." Now the bill comes due. The numbers sound impossible even by ancient standards. Persian sources claim 600,000 warriors crossed the Hellespont. Greek historians later wrote of millions. Modern scholars think different. The fleet that beaches at Marathon carries maybe 25,000 fighters, enough cavalry to break any Greek phalanx, enough archers to darken the sky, enough gold to buy half of Athens if gold could win this war. Against them stand 10,000 Athenians and perhaps 1,000 Plataeans who march through the night rather than let Athens face this alone. No one else is coming. Sparta is trapped by a religious festival. The other city-states are waiting to see who wins before they choose sides. This is how the greatest empire on earth meets the oldest democracy in the world, on a beach where the numbers say only one outcome makes sense. But numbers have not met Miltiades yet. The Athenian assembly meets in emergency session as Persian sails darken the horizon. 10 generals argue through the night, voices echoing off marble walls that may not stand another week. Half want to retreat, behind Athens' walls and hope for siege. The other half know that walls mean nothing when the enemy controls the sea. Miltiades stands and speaks the words that send them marching. We meet them at Marathon, or we meet them in our streets with our children watching. The vote is close. Democracy nearly kills itself with debate while the enemy sharpens spears 26 miles away. Sparta's absence cuts deepest. The most feared warriors in Greece are trapped by their own laws, celebrating the Carneia festival where no soldier can march until the moon turns full. They promise to come when the gods allow, but gods keep Persian time for no one. Athens sends a runner anyway, Pheidippides, who covers 150 miles in 2 days pleading for help that will not arrive. So Athens marches alone, 10,000 citizens who learn to fight in weekend training, farmers and potters and merchants who know their phalanx drill but have never seen an arrow storm. They carry shields their grandfathers used, spears hammered in forges that smell of olive oil and bread, not conquest. Behind them, Athens empties. Every man of fighting age walks north toward Marathon, leaving wives and children to pack what they can carry and pray the gods remember small cities that dare to choose their own kings. The march takes them through hills thick with late summer heat, past olive groves and vineyards heavy with fruit no one may live to harvest. By evening, they crest the ridge above Marathon Plain and see the Persian campfires spread like stars fallen to earth, a constellation of conquest that makes their own fires look like scattered sparks. But they do not turn back. For 4 days, the armies stare at each other across Marathon Plain like cats deciding who moves first. The Greeks hold the high ground above the beach, close enough to see Persian cavalry grooming horses, near enough to smell smoke from cooking fires that never seem to run short of meat. Time is a weapon that cuts both ways, but it cuts deeper into Greek flesh. Every day Athens does not fall as a day the Persian fleet burns supplies they carried from Asia. But every day the Greeks camp in the hills is a day their city sits undefended, a day Sparta's moon crawls toward full, a day more Persian ships might sail around Attica to attack Athens from the sea. The waiting tests more than patience. Greek rations run thin while Persian supply ships beach fresh bread and wine. Greek sentries watch Persian scouts probe their lines, counting spears, measuring courage, looking for the crack that will split this small army like a walnut. Artaphernes, the Persian general, has fought 20 campaigns and conquered half of them without drawing his sword. He understands siege without walls. Make the enemy count days instead of victories. Make them imagine their families fleeing through streets they swore to protect. Make them choose between dying here or dying at home. The Persian cavalry practices charges just close enough for the Greeks to hear hoofbeats like thunder. Their archers shoot at targets placed exactly 100 yards from the Greek line, arrows that whisper, "We can reach you whenever we choose." But Miltiades watches everything and says nothing. He counts horses, studies formations, measures the distance from Persian camp to water, from beach to hills, from confidence to mistake. The other generals grow restless, but Miltiades knows something they do not yet see. The enemy has been winning for so long, they have forgotten how to expect surprise. On the fifth morning, everything changes. Dawn breaks on the fifth day with news that turns the war upside down. Persian cavalry has vanished from the beach, loaded back onto ships during the night, along with half the infantry. Artaphernes has decided to sail around Attica and attack Athens directly while the army bleeds itself on Marathon's rocks. This is the moment Miltiades has been waiting for. The veteran general calls his war council as morning light reveals empty spaces where horses stood yesterday. Without cavalry, he says quietly, they fight like us now. Shield to shield, spear to spear, man to man. The other generals see opportunity but also terror. Yes, the horses are gone, but 15,000 Persians still hold the beach, and their archers can still darken the sky before any Greek spear finds flesh. The traditional phalanx advance means marching 800 yards under arrow fire, watching men fall with every step, arriving at Persian shields with half their strength, already bleeding in the sand. Miltiades draws lines in the dirt with his spear point. What if we do not march? He asks. What if we run? The idea breaks every rule written in Greek tactical manuals. Phalanx fighters advance in step, shields locked, spears level, slow and steady like a bronze wave that nothing can break. Running men arrive breathless, formations scattered, easy prey for disciplined enemies. But running men also cross killing ground in half the time. Miltiades sketches his plan while the other generals lean close and try to believe what they are hearing. Thin the center, strengthen the wings, charge at full sprint, trust the flanks to fold inward like closing doors. It has never been tried because it should never work. The vote is 6-4. Democracy chooses to run toward death rather than wait for it to arrive by sea. The trumpet sounds as the sun climbs toward noon. Across Marathon Plain, both armies know the waiting ends today. Persian formation flows like water finding level, 15,000 soldiers spreading into their familiar pattern that has conquered half the world. Archers in the rear, infantry in deep ranks that can absorb any charge, flanks anchored by the sea and hills that channel enemies into killing ground. They watch the Greeks descend from their ridge and smile. Miltiades has stretched his 10,000 men across a front nearly as wide as the Persian line, but the math looks wrong to every eye. That sees it. The Greek center stands only 4 ranks deep, thin as parchment, while tradition demands 8 ranks minimum to stop a Persian charge. On the flanks, Athenian wings bunch thick with shields, but wings cannot win battles if the center breaks like kindling. The Persians see the weak middle and know they will punch through it like a fist through silk, then roll up the Greek flanks from behind. They have done this dance 100 times in 100 different fields, but they have never danced with men who vote for their kings. The Greek line settles into position 800 yards from Persian spears, close enough to see faces, near enough to hear enemy officers calling orders in languages that sound like wind through reeds. Some Athenians pray to gods they hope are watching. Others check spear grips and shield straps one final time. Miltiades walks the ranks, speaking quietly to men who followed him here on faith and mathematics. Remember, he tells them, we are not trying to hold ground. We are trying to get home. The Persian horns blow first, deep notes that roll across the plain like distant thunder. The Greek trumpet answers, high and sharp as a blade being drawn. Then the running begins. 8 stadia, nearly a mile of sand and scrub grass that separates 2 ways of seeing the world. The Greeks cover it at a dead run, bronze flashing in noon sun, spear points glittering like a field of deadly wheat. The Persians cannot believe what they are seeing. Armies do not charge 800 yards. Men arrive winded, formations shattered, easy targets for the arrow storm that should be falling now, but somehow is not. Persian archers hesitate, confused by the speed, the distance, the madness of farmers sprinting toward trained killers like this is some festival race instead of war. The arrows come late and scattered. Most fall short or wide. The few that find targets punch through shields and bronze but do not stop the charge. Greeks stumble and die, but their comrades leap over bodies and keep running, roaring now like a landslide gaining speed. In the center, exactly as planned, the thin Greek line hits deep Persian ranks and crumples. The enemy surges forward, scenting victory, pushing deeper into the gap that opens like a wound in the Athenian formation. They are winning where it matters most, breaking through the middle, preparing to turn and slaughter the flanks. But the flanks are not there anymore. On both wings, thick formations of Athenians and Plataeans have smashed through Persian lines like hammers through pottery. The enemy flanks, trained to hold ground and trust the center, find themselves fighting for their lives while their own middle drives deeper into what they now realize is a trap. The double envelopment closes like jaws. Greeks who pretended to flee in the center rally and turn to fight beside comrades who have swept in from the wings. The Persians, so confident moments before, suddenly find enemies behind them, beside them everywhere except the path back to their ships. Panic spreads faster than orders. The Persian center tries to retreat but runs into their own reserves. Men drop weapons and run for the beach, for the boats, for any escape from bronze spears that seem to multiply like terrible flowers blooming in the sand. What looked like Persian victory becomes a Persian rout in less time than it takes to boil water. The slaughter on Marathon Beach writes the future in blood and seawater. Persian soldiers who ruled cities just hours ago die with their backs to enemies they thought were farmers, cut down while scrambling toward ships that cannot rescue them fast enough. The numbers tell the story that poets will struggle to believe. 6,400 Persians lie dead in sand, already soaked red. The Athenians count their own losses and find them almost impossible to accept. 192 men, less than 2% of their army. Among the Greek dead lies Callimachus, the war archon who cast the deciding vote to fight at Marathon. He dies with 11 spear wounds, still gripping his shield, still facing the enemy. His sacrifice becomes legend, but legends do not change what the mathematics already prove. Disciplined citizen soldiers fighting for their own soil hit harder than professionals fighting for distant kings. The pursuit reaches the water's edge where Persian ships strain to launch through surf, thick with floating shields and broken oars. Greeks wade into waves up to their waists, grabbing ships by their bronze rams, pulling them back toward shore like fishermen, hauling nets heavy with silver. 7 ships burn on the beach before the rest escape. 7 ships filled with gold, supplies, and the certainty that had sailed from Asia Minor just weeks before. The remaining fleet turns east, carrying news that will reach Darius like a knife between the ribs. But the battle is only half finished. While Greeks strip armor from the dead and tend wounds that will scar into stories, Artaphernes and his surviving ships round Cape Sunion, racing toward an Athens they believe stands defenseless. The Persian general still commands 10,000 men, enough to storm walls defended by old men and boys. He does not know that one Greek runner is already racing him to the city, carrying news that will save or damn everything they fought to protect. The real marathon is about to begin. Phidippides strips off his armor while bodies still litter Marathon Beach. The same runner who carried Athens' plea to Sparta now faces a race that will echo through 25 centuries. 26 miles of rocky hills and summer heat separate him from a city that does not yet know it has won the greatest victory in its short democratic life. The math is brutal and simple. Persian ships sailing around Cape Sunion will reach Athens by evening. A man on foot running the mountain roads might arrive first if his legs do not fail and his heart does not burst. Behind him, Miltiades shouts orders that sound like controlled panic. The army must march back to Athens immediately, must arrive in time to man walls the Persians expect to find empty. But armies march at the speed of wounded men carrying dead comrades. They will not win this race. Everything depends on one runner and 26 miles of stone. Phidippides runs like a man fleeing death because that is exactly what he is doing. Every stride carries the weight of 10,000 families who trusted farmers with spears to save democracy from kings. Every gasping breath pulls him closer to a city that waits behind walls, watching the sea for sails that mean either rescue or ruin. The road climbs through olive groves already heavy with the scent of autumn, past shrines where gods seem to hold their breath. His sandals wear thin, then through, then disappear entirely, leaving bloody prints on stones that mark the miles between victory and disaster. Somewhere behind him, Persian ships round the cape and see Athens spread below them like a map of conquest. Somewhere ahead of him, mothers watch the harbor and wonder why their men have not returned from Marathon. The city hangs suspended between hope and terror, between the democracy it chose and the empire that chose it for destruction. Phidippides runs faster than news, faster than fear, faster than ships that think they race against empty walls instead of against the will of free men who refuse to kneel. When he staggers through Athens' gates as the sun touches the western hills, his first words save civilization. "We have won," he gasps, then collapses on stone still warm from the day's light. The city erupts in celebration that carries across water to Persian ships now close enough to see people dancing in streets they came to burn. The Persian fleet sees the celebration and understands what the dancing means. Artaphernes studies Athens through the gathering dusk and realizes he is staring at a city that knows it has won, defended by people who have already counted their victory and found it complete. The ships turn away from Athens harbor without landing a single soldier. This is not about ships or walls anymore. This is about the terrible mathematics of morale, the way victory changes everything it touches. The Persians came to crush a democracy before it could spread, but democracy has just proven it can fight like fire, consuming everything that tries to contain it. The immediate consequences ripple outward like stones dropped in still water. Other Greek cities that waited to choose sides suddenly remember their love of freedom. Sparta's army arrives 3 days late, marches to Marathon, stares at Persian corpses scattered like broken pottery, and admits they have never seen anything like this slaughter. But the deeper victory lives in what Marathon proves about the nature of power itself. For the first time in human history, citizens who choose their own leaders have defeated subjects who obey kings, without question. The idea that free men fight harder than slaves stops being theory and becomes demonstrated fact, written in blood on Mediterranean sand. Darius receives the news in Persepolis and begins planning a return that will dwarf Marathon's small armies. But he will die before that invasion sails, leaving the task to his son Xerxes, who will bring the largest army in human history to Greece and discover that Marathon was not a fluke. Democracy has learned it can survive, and surviving makes it stronger. This battle does not end Persian ambitions, but it ends the idea that Persian ambitions cannot be stopped. 10,000 Greeks have just taught 25,000 Persians that empires bleed when cut by free men who vote for their wars instead of simply obeying them. The run that saved civilization was not just Pheidippides racing from Marathon to Athens. It was democracy itself, running faster than tyranny, proving it could outfight the greatest empire on earth. The tomb at Marathon still stands, a grass mound covering 192 Athenians who died so their children could vote. Every year for centuries, pilgrims walked 26 miles from Athens to leave flowers on that hill, retracing Pheidippides' run without knowing they were creating the world's most famous foot race. When the modern Olympics began in 1896, organizers chose Marathon as their longest event, measuring the distance from battlefield to city gates. They thought they were honoring ancient Greek athletics. Instead, they created a ritual that carries the spirit of September 26th, 490 BCE into gymnasiums and city streets across 6 continents. Every marathon runner, whether they know it or not, repeats the race between democracy and tyranny, between citizens who choose their fate and subjects who accept the fate others choose for them. The distance remains exactly the same. The message endures without translation. But Marathon's deeper echo sounds in moments when free people face impossible odds and choose to fight anyway. In Parliament debating whether Britain should stand alone against fascism. In a Philadelphia hall where farmers sign papers that make them traitors to their king. In Berlin streets where young people tear down walls their grandparents thought would last forever. The battle proved democracy could survive its birth. Everything that followed, from Salamis to Gettysburg to Normandy, traces back to that morning when 10,000 Greeks discovered they could run faster than fear, hit harder than professionals, and die better than slaves. Marathon did not end the war between freedom and tyranny. That war never ends, but it established the terms of engagement. It taught the world that people who choose their leaders fight differently than people who inherit them, that citizens defend their votes with the same fierce love they defend their families. The bell that rings at Marathon's monument marks more than Greek victory over Persian invasion. It marks the moment democracy learned it was worth the blood of patriots, worth the run that never really ends.